You may think that smoking is the worst thing that you could do for your health, but what if sitting all day, sitting at your desk, what if that poses similar risks?
People who sit more than 8 hours a day with little or no physical movement have mortality risks similar to those who smoke. Even if you're exercising regularly, the harms of sitting for a long period of time, the physical movement that you've done does not erase that. Small, consistent movement does make a big difference.
There's a lot of women that I've talked to recently. They're not necessarily pre-diabetic, but they're over the threshold of what's considered normal for their fasting insulin levels. And one of the very simple and easy ways to reduce that number is just to...
Welcome to the Art of Living Well podcast, where we empower you to take charge of your health and happiness. We're Marnie
and Stephanie,
board-certified integrative health practitioners, holistic wellness coaches, and passionate explorers of all things mind, body, and soul.
Each week, we bring you expert insights, real-life stories, and practical tools to help you bridge the gap between where you are now and where you truly want to be. From longevity and nutrition to mindset, movement, and healing, we dive deep to uncover the root causes of wellness and vitality.
Join us and our growing community as we explore what it really means to create your art of living well in a way that's authentic, sustainable, and uniquely yours.
You may think that smoking is the worst thing that you could do for your health. What if sitting all day, sitting at your desk, working? I think all of us are feeling it, especially anyone who has a job that requires us to sit. And Marnie and I can feel this. What does it feel like when you've been sitting for too long? Your body's kind of aching. I mean, my joints and muscles are sore, especially in my hips, and I just want to get up and move.
Sometimes your feet fall asleep. You feel stiff.
For many of us, this is just the reality. And I know from talking to so many clients, like this is a real challenge, a challenge to get your steps in and just to move your body, forget getting in some sort of an exercise or workout necessarily. So we're coming on today to talk about why sitting is the new smoking. And we'll get into a little bit of the kind of why and what health risk that it poses when we sit too long and we're sedentary. And also just some practical ways that you can incorporate more movement throughout your day. We know there's a lot of people out there that are parents, then after sitting at their desk all day, they have to drive kids around and it feels like it's never ending and you may feel like you have no out. But there are ways to get in some movement. And we believe this is something broader, but it's almost like I feel like this is a grassroots movement here. To try to get more people and more companies and more employers out there aligned with this notion, because it can really cause a whole slew of health-related issues. And so getting us naturally moving, which is how our bodies evolved, is going to benefit not only the individual, everyone. So that's what we're here to talk about.
And also, it's hard to sit all day. I get so antsy sitting all day. But, I want to share with you just a few key research points about this, because I feel like this topic isn't really talked about a whole lot. It's kind of newish, right? So people who sit more than 8 hours a day with little or no physical movement have mortality risks similar to those who smoke or are obese. And this is a study done by Mayo Clinic. And even if you're exercising regularly, the harms of sitting for a long period of time, the physical movement that you've done does not erase that. So that's a really interesting point. I always think about myself or people who get up early in the morning and are exercising for an hour or an hour and a half or whatever. And then you can't just go and sit at your desk for 8 hours, because extended sitting is linked with a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, metabolic syndromes. And this has been studied by multiple different organizations, the Mount Sinai Hospital, Better Health Channel. And we can link some of this up in the show notes so you can see the studies for yourself.
Well, and I think what's important is there are actual guidelines. I did not realize this when I was studying for the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaches. There are guidelines put out there by the World Health Association as to how many minutes of cardiovascular you should have each week and what that even means. Is it like a light stroll? Because that's just kind of getting steps in, or is it real movement where your heart rate's starting to become elevated? And also strength training. There's actual guidelines for strength training. But we don't really hear about that so often. I feel like every once in a while when you're in school, you hear about like a certain number of minutes, but it's just kind of like discarded. And there are guidelines out there, and for a reason, because as Marnie said, these are risk factors. Being sedentary are risk factors for a whole host of chronic health conditions. And again, we're talking about something that is free for the most part, very low cost, very low barrier to entry, walking.
Well, and even just standing, right? Like, how can we incorporate into our day, maybe every hour you're getting up and you're moving a little bit from your desk just to get the blood flowing. Stephanie and I have been recording pretty much all morning, and I'm like ready to bounce in my chair because I'm getting antsy. It's hard to sit.
We'll talk about the physical implications of being sedentary, but the mental implications, lack of like energy and creativity that comes from sitting too. So like from a productivity standpoint, it doesn't help anyone to be sitting all day. But yet that's exactly what we've done is we've worn like hours in sitting as a badge of honor.
Well, and I just want to say, I'm thinking about this right now as we're speaking. And I had a conversation with my daughter who just started college yesterday. And she was like, Mom, I love the independence of my day. I love that I have one class and then I can walk 20 or 30 minutes to whatever I have next. I'm not just sitting at a desk or at a table all day long in school being talked to for 7 hours or whatever. And I'm like, why are we doing this to our kids? Like the college model actually, I think is a much better model for learning. Because the kids are getting out, they're in class for an hour and a half, whatever it is. And then they're out and they're walking and they're talking and they're eating and they're, doing whatever until they get to the next thing.
I agree because I think about this with my daughter and she's not playing a sport in the fall now, which for the first time in 3 years, I'm like, she doesn't wear a device, but I swear she'd have maybe 1,000 steps. Her school isn't that big. She's not walking very far into class. And then she comes home and then she's sitting in her bed.
Doing homework, right? Because she has to. It's not like she's choosing this.
No, I know. And I'm like, can you just get outside and go on a walk? It drives me crazy, but it's not ingrained in us culturally yet. And I think that's where the shift needs to come.
Yes.
And one big aha, whenever you go to Europe, if for those of you out there that have, been fortunate enough to travel abroad, you will see it's just ingrained in their day-to-day life. No one needs to go to the gym necessarily because they're walking to the grocery store multiple times a week. They're carrying their grocery bags.
They're walking everywhere.
And it was funny. We were in Sicily this summer and we had this little tour and the tour guide was talking about how, you can tell the tourists who are out early in the morning, just the only other people that are out are like the shopkeepers that are cleaning up from the night before and the delivery people delivering more groceries. And you can see those, not just Americans, but just tourists in general that are out on their morning workout and they're going so fast and they're not paying attention to anything around them. And I was like, kind of like, oh gosh, that was me this morning on a walk. But she's like, we don't have to go to the gym. We don't have the obesity problems and we don't have a lot of they have other issues, I'm sure, right? Health issues. And so it just gets me thinking of culturally, how can we embrace this
moving the needle
and just moving and not being in our cars all the time.
My son he lives in Chicago and he does not want a car. In some ways it could help him, like when he's traveling places and whatever, he doesn't need it in the city, but he's like, nope, I'm not getting a car. I don't want a car. I like walking everywhere. He has a bike subscription and he has like this annual subscription to this, whatever kind of bikes they have there. And he rides a bike to work. He'll leave it there and then he'll pick up another bike. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. He's riding and he doesn't have to pay for a car. And he's like biking miles and miles a day.
It just becomes part of your day. Or you can take public transportation and you can read a book while you're,
Right.
I don't know. I think it's freeing not to have a car.
Yeah, totally.
Regards.
It makes me think about like, okay, I love the suburb I live in and it's green and it's wooded and there's so many wonderful things about it. But there's something to be said for living somewhere where you can just go out your door and buy the things you need and, go to a cafe or whatever it is. Like I can do that, but I need to walk a few miles to do that. It's not, a 5-minute adventure. It's crazy how the number on the bathroom scale can ruin your day. I made an exciting discovery that changes all that. I stopped focusing on weight and put my energy into reshaping and rediscovering my body's true potential. Creatone by Brickhouse Nutrition was created by doctors specifically for women. Creatone helps me look more toned, defined, and sculpted without increasing diet and exercise. Yes, without increasing diet and exercise. Creatone is radically different from guys' creatine. It's designed for women with pure creatine and patented ingredients that reshape your body so you look leaner, trimmer, and more toned. No water retention, no weight gain, and no bulking up. And it boosts metabolism to help you burn fat. That's a plus. Break up with your bathroom scale and watch how fast Creatone can help you look leaner, toned, and sculpted. Let's get you started today with 20% off your first order. Visit tonetoday.com and use my code LIVINGWELL for your discount. Again, use my code LIVINGWELL to save 20% at tonetoday.com.
So it makes me think of, our friend Kim, who was on this before, and she's writing her Substack, her and her family for at least 6 months moved to Bordeaux, France. And I was reading one of her latest Substacks, and she was saying within, I would say, a 15 or so minute walk, she's got the boulangerie, and she's got the grocery store, and she has the wine shop and the cheese shop. And
I'm so jealous. Like, I was reading it and I was like, wow, like that's her life.
Yeah. But you can make it your life too. Like, it's all about choices. And I know sometimes it's easier said than done. There's such a profound impact that this has on your mental health and your physical health. And so how can you create more opportunities throughout your day? Because there's a lot of choices that we do make that we think are required of us, but really we do have some choice in these decisions, right?
So going back to sitting and thinking about, why it's important to move our bodies, right? Like from the standpoint of, women, let's talk about women specifically, like bone density and osteoporosis. It's a thing, right? This is a thing. We're already at a high risk for that, for osteoporosis, just being a woman. And then when you have all this inactivity, that really accelerates the bone loss that we have. And so, we've talked a lot about movement and strength training and how important that is for women. But also, if you're just sitting at a desk all day long, I just picture those bones crumbling, right? Like, so, and this is not to make you feel bad in any way, shape, or form, but it's just to encourage you to stand up, do jumping jacks, walk laps, like whatever you can do. Get outside if you're inside in an office, walk to the water cooler, just shake your body, like whatever you can do to get some movement and get the blood flowing.
Well, and you brought up women, and I think insulin resistance, and especially, as you approach the menopause years, which we've talked about, the belly, and just by when we're moving and we're eating, especially when we're eating more carb-rich foods, we're not using that glucose to move our body. Our muscles aren't utilizing that fuel, and it's just sitting. And then ultimately, like, yes, that's what's going to happen. And there's a lot of women that I've talked to recently that have high levels. They're not necessarily pre-diabetic, but they're over the threshold of what's considered normal for their fasting insulin levels. That's something to be taken very serious. And one of the very simple and easy ways to reduce that number is just to move your body, especially after a meal. So can you carve out 10 minutes after you eat for some type of movement? That you don't need to get sweaty. You don't need to change your clothes. Can you just go on a walk, move around, like walk outside in your yard? If you're in an office building, can you walk up and down a few flights of stairs?
My favorite thing after I eat is to take a walk, like lunch and dinner. And Jordan and I have been kind of in a rhythm now for months where after dinner, we take the dog on a walk. And it's starting to get dark out earlier again, which makes me sad. And I'm going to have to pull out the headlamp soon. But I do love that nighttime walk ritual. And the sky is always so pretty. Like you literally can go outside for 10 minutes. We usually do about a 20-minute after dinner walk, which isn't very long, but it's invigorating, especially when it's getting dark out, the night is winding down. Maybe I really just feel like going on the couch. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, I just want to like chill out on the couch. Then I'm like, but do I really want to just chill out on the couch? Like, I'm going to feel so much better if I take a walk. And then I come inside and I maybe decide to read my book or do something else. And So I'm not just like eating and sitting on the couch.
Agree. I mean, that's probably one of the worst things that you could do. And not to
Especially
judge anyone, but that is what a lot of people are doing. And
Yes.
so if you have if you have the kind of job, you're in a hospital and you're working all day and you're running around and you're getting, I mean, I know many people that get tons of steps in their job, and that's fantastic. So we're not talking to you necessarily. We're talking to those people that sit a lot. And so if you're sitting for most of the day and you are pretty sedentary, then what's one thing you can do to change up your evening routine so that you're not sitting on the couch watching a show right after dinner? If anything, we're not saying don't ever watch a show. And maybe you can get up, if you have access to a treadmill, can you watch the show while walking and get a workout in, either in the morning or after work? Can you do something? Can you do the walk for 20 minutes after dinner and then sit down? So it's just making small changes. Maybe you watch a show for 20 or 30 minutes instead of an hour. What small tweaks can you make that feel doable that will help move you in that direction?
And also, we've talked about this before, but the walking pads, if you have the ability to get a walking pad for your daytime hours where you're sitting at a desk, it does make a huge difference. Like, I know it's not always easy to, be typing and writing and doing everything and walking. Like, that's what I sometimes struggle with. But like, if you are a person that has a lot of meetings, take some of those meetings walking. Like, no one's going to be like, oh, I can't believe you're walking during your meeting, right? Like, if anything, it'll be a conversation starter.
Are you loving this conversation and want even more ways to live your happiest, healthiest, and most authentic life? Then we'd love for you to join our growing community on Substack. When you subscribe, you'll get bonus content and behind-the-scenes insights from us. Plus, you'll be the first to know about our upcoming programs and events. Your support helps us keep bringing inspiring guests and impactful conversations straight to you each week. So head to the link in our show notes, sign up today, and let's continue this journey together to create the art of living well.
What I would just say is more people are struggling with this and aware and wanting to make changes. So the more that one person starts, it's going to create a ripple effect. And two, I would like to challenge like literally every single employer out there who has the ability to buy walking pads for their employees.
Yes.
Like invest, because you are investing in their physical health, the mental health, the productivity of your team, and the happiness of your employees. I firmly believe that. I actually had one client within the last week bought one, and it's like a game changer. It's been a game changer. And it's funny. Back in my corporate days, I remember there being a treadmill and someone telling me like, oh, it's this treadmill, but it only goes to like 2.0 or whatever it was. And I remember being like, are you kidding me? What's the point? I never even went on it. And this is going back. I mean, I've been out of that work for 12 years. So this is a long time ago. And now I'm like, oh, I should have been using that because I was the person that would wake up early, work out, and then sit at my desk all day and then drive home and then sit with my kids or whatever. So just moving at a 2.0 speed is great because you're getting the blood flow. And our bodies, that's how we evolved, right? We were hunter-gatherers. So we were used to sleeping and eating and doing a little hunting and foraging for our food and taking a little rest and then getting up and moving again. So we're not saying you have to be moving for 8 hours on your walking tread. No, but like do a little bit of sitting and then get up and walk for a little bit. Or if you can get outside, even better.
And it's also good for our brains, right? To just like move our bodies. I find that when I move, my brain just works so much better. And obviously, we can't be moving all of the time, but I'm just thinking about even lunch. Like we recorded all morning and I've been sitting for most of the morning and I did get a run in earlier, but now it's been 3 hours basically that we've been sitting too long. We did take a break and stand up for a minute, but when I go to eat lunch, I'm going to eat lunch standing because and a lot of people say, oh, you should sit down and chew your food. And I don't want to sit down. Like I want to stand and eat. And what is wrong with that? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? Like
as long as your phone is nowhere around you and no devices.
And I'm still calm and whatever, right. But my legs need to stretch.
Yeah. My legs are so tight right now. It's like uncomfortable.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with standing and eating. It's not like I'm like inhaling
your
my
food.
food and I
Right.
don't have time
Over
to
the
sit
sink.
down.
Right.
It's that I'm choosing to stand because I need to stretch.
If hearing the statistic that your mortality is impacted negatively by sitting, what can that stir within you to start doing one thing differently? And maybe it's talking to your employer. Because I have clients that they're like, well, I just get meetings scheduled all day in my calendar. I have no control over it. Well, then that's like a broader like HR issue at your company, right? But those are questions to ask when you're looking for new jobs. How can you prioritize your day, but how can you focus on building and creating that culture within your company? How can you make changes? How can you spark a movement within that organization? And I know a lot of people out there may feel like they don't have a choice or they're limited, but this is a big deal, right? This is not just like, oh, I want to be able to do my yoga during lunch or something. No.
You mentioned how some people maybe don't have a choice at work, but you could potentially talk to your manager and say, listen, I understand that you need to schedule all these meetings for me, but I need a few minutes of a break between meetings. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And the more that you can try and take some ownership in your own schedule and calendar, the better off you'll be. And I don't think that's an unreasonable request to your employer at all.
Blocking your calendar for different like breaks. And again, you're not the only one. So be that role model for others. Be that leader on your team, even if you're the youngest person on your team, because there are other people that would appreciate it as well. Like little things that you can do. So maybe if you are on the 15th floor of your building, you don't want to walk up and down every single day. You want to take the elevator, but could you take the elevator to the 10th floor and then walk 5 floors? So could you, if you're going in between meetings, I remember one thing I used to do was just like take the stairs 2 floors down and up, little things like that just little shifts that are changes, just habits that you make.
Yeah, even when you're parking, like at a store, like Target, for instance. I remember I used to like argue with my husband about, why are you taking a faraway parking spot? It's cold out and we could be parking right next to the store. And now when I park, I usually park as far away as I can. A, I don't want anyone to hit my car. And it's not that my car is so amazing, but I don't want anyone to hit my car. And B, I kind of like walking. Like, why not? I might as well get the extra steps in while I'm running errands.
I agree. What's funny? I remember that from something I think my mother said growing up, is park further away to get more steps, which is so random. So I often do that. And my husband's always the one that wants the closest spot. And I'm like, what's the big deal? There's a spot back here we can walk. Like, why does it need to be the closest spot?
Yeah. And sometimes my husband will say, oh, do you want me to let you off? And I'm like if he's going to park far away, I'm like, no, I can walk unless I'm in like heels or something. Then I want him to let me off since I can't walk in heels anytime. But yeah, so it's funny how our mindsets change though. And the movement is good for us. And especially if you're going into a restaurant or you're going into a show or whatever it is, and you're going to be sitting, like you might as well move until you get to that point.
So one other tip I have, and I love when I find people that will do this with me, is before sporting events. So anyone out there who's a parent who is used to dropping their kid off before a game or a practice, and then you have like all this time, instead of just going, maybe to a bar or a restaurant.
Or in your car and sitting
or in your car, just get up, walk around. And I don't care what weather is, what the weather is like bring the gear, have the umbrella, whatever you want to do. Yeah, there'll be times when the weather is too horrific to do this, but just take a walk. In between games, like if you're at a tournament all day, yes, you may be standing. Standing's better than probably sitting, but take a walk in between the games. You have 15 minutes because you can get a ton of steps in that way. And so we don't need to be sitting during our kids' sporting activities as well, when we're also sitting all day long. And don't feel guilty about that. There's no reason to feel guilty that you have to just sit there. I mean, you're there to watch their game, but there's plenty of downtime and opportunity to do some movement is my point.
I feel like I've had a lot of like situations come up recently where I've been somewhere and I've been standing and someone will say to me, "Oh, do you want my seat? Or here, you can sit here and I'll stand," or whatever, which is so kind. You know what? I actually don't mind standing. I feel like I've done a lot of sitting and I really want to stand right now. And I think that's okay. Just because most people are sitting, it's okay to stand. Like, you don't have to sit. If you feel like you've been doing a lot of sitting and you need to stand up, by all means, stand up.
I will purposely choose to stand for a lot of events
Yeah.
rather than sit. I think it's like standing begets standing. It sort of feeds off each other. The more you start to move, the more your body is going to crave it. And then you become more sensitized to the fact that, like Marnie and I said, we've been sitting for 3 hours. Our legs are tight. Our muscle, like my hamstrings and my hips get tight. All I want to do is stand up right now. Maybe we should have our standing desks when we do the podcast.
Well, I was thinking we should record an episode walking on our walking pads.
Oh,
That would be really
That's a good
interesting.
idea. Yeah.
So stay tuned for that.
Yes.
And it's funny because I think about fidgeters sometimes. And I always wonder, are they jacked up on caffeine and coffee? And that's why they're like tapping their foot constantly, or are they nervous? Or is it that their body's telling them they need movement?
Okay, that is very interesting.
Yes. And I'm like sitting here right now and I'm not like super fidgety in general, but I'm feeling like very like I need to move. And that's my body telling me like, okay, Marnie, you need to stand up when you're done here.
Well, maybe that's a sign we should wrap up this conversation and go outside on a walk or something before our next interview.
To be serious, small, consistent movement does make a big difference. And, if you're a morning workout person or an evening workout person, try and break up those long blocks of time sitting at a desk. That's the biggest thing we're trying to drive home here, because it is a matter of your health. And this is researched. This is not something we're just harping on to harp on it. It is a real problem, especially in the United States.
I think part of the reason why you're too tired at the end of the day is because you've been sitting all day.
Staring at a screen.
Right? Exactly. Double whammy.
Yep.
And probably have not had any outside natural sunlight. So if you can get outside to do some of your movement, you get bonus points because then you'll get the natural light.
Yes.
And if you're a numbers person and you have a device that you can track your steps, you don't have to become obsessive about it, but it is good awareness to be like, oh my gosh, I'm only getting 2,000 or 3,000 steps a day. 10,000 is a good goal. I don't know who made that number up, but it seems like it is probably plus or minus is a good number for a lot of people. You don't have to become, again, obsessive about it. But just try to say, okay, how can I do, 1% better tomorrow? How can I improve that number and get it up there? And maybe in a few weeks from now, you are hitting 10,000 steps. And it is work. A lot of people have said it's hard to get 10,000 steps depending on your job, and that you have to be very intentional about it. But you can do it.
If you're driving to work, I think it's actually harder if you're working from home in some ways. Because a lot of people will, have their coffee or whatever, and then they just like go into their office and they shut themselves in all day. And then by the time they're out of their work, then their kids are coming home or they're making dinner and then they're on the couch. And it's like, oh my gosh, I've had 500 steps today. Like, I can see where that can happen really quickly. So like Stephanie said, pick something that you can be intentional about. Maybe it's every hour and moving in some capacity. Maybe it's walking after lunch, walking after dinner. Like, just try and add some movement into your day.
If you have a catch-up kind of call, like not a meeting where you need to be at your computer, can you do like a walking status update meeting? Whether you're at an office complex or you're at your house, can you both get on your phone and go outside for a walk when you're just doing one of those kind of catch-up calls that you don't need to have materials in front of you?
We need to do that more.
Yes, we do.
Because I feel like we have a mix of those calls.
Right. Yes.
Also, our winter 2-week Vitality reboot is coming up in January. January 4th is the start date, but you could start whenever it works for you. And we would love to have you join us. Community, this is a very popular way to start off the year. We love it. We've just had so many amazing people go through this reboot over and over again, and then the new people, and I'm excited for it.
I'm always ready. This is the one that I think I'm really always ready for. That and dry January. It's a good way to kick off the community and kick off the year in community with more energy, more vitality. Hopefully seeing you guys in our community. Thank you for tuning in to the Art of Living Well podcast. If today's episode inspired you, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It helps more people discover our show.
And if you're ready to take your health and happiness to the next level, we would love to support you. Whether it's through our transformative group programs, personalized coaching, or functional medicine lab testing, we help uncover the root causes of your health challenges and unlock your vitality.
Visit www.theartoflivingwell.us to learn more and book a free discovery call. Until next time, keep creating your art of living well.